Hello, friends. As promised, Zephyr of Rio Abajo Rio and I are here to chat and talk a little bit about all of the different ways our work as healers and theater and tarot artists and overall creators of health and wellness in the world can support you and support the retreats that that you are already dreaming up, as well as why Zephyr and I wanted to do and host retreats in the first place. And I'm going to toss that one over to you, Zephyr, because I honestly had not really thought about doing retreats until you brought it up that time, like way back in Hillsboro, what, like 2 years ago?
Oh wow. Yeah, I'm glad that you caught it when I threw it at you so wholeheartedly. Uh, I just assumed that retreats were part of your life. I didn't know. That's so great. What what has always, been for me, like envisioning doing retreats. I've been on many in my life, and I really enjoy the idea of immersing in something and immersion and having that space to connect with whatever it is. So for me, retreats aren't trying to get away from something, but more just like having this like childlike play time to immerse. You remember when you would just like get off the school bus and you just like put down your backpack and you're like, ooh, yeah, like, oh my God, like I get to do now, I can immerse and play. Like, yeah. And so for me, the intention for retreating is more like treating. It's like more like giving yourself that space for immersing in something, and it creates that container where you can. And my hopes are that after you leave, a retreat, that parts of those possibilities and ways of engagement kind of remain for you, right? You're like, oh, like I can also like I can set these like play dates like outside of retreat time. But yeah, so yeah.
I love that. When people looked at grouptarot.com/retreat and looked at all of the different things that we offer, if people want to bring us in to craft your companies or collectives retreat for you, one of the pieces of feedback that I absolutely loved was, it's like summer camp for adults. And I was like, yes, yes it is. We all need to play. We all need to play. And whether that is getting out and about in beautiful Hillsboro, New Mexico, I the next time I am down visiting, whether it is for a retreat or just to come by and say hi, I gotta get myself in that river.
Yes, you do.
I,
Yeah.
I yeah, I gotta get myself in that river, because if there's one thing that the desert honestly keeps surprising me with, is the places where there are water. And it reminds me that and this is one of the things that I love about retreats. And I love what you said about, instead of like retreat as like going backward, as it really being about treating yourself. Like, I love that. It's a time for me, because it's away from mundane responsibilities. It's a time for me to like check in with myself And because I do so much time between the desert and the Pacific Northwest, I have realized that I have this expectation of the desert as hot, dry, barren, and desolate, even though I have now years of experience of knowing that it is so much more than that, and that like that's super uh super surface and only accurate in like small areas. But there's so much water. Like there
Yeah.
there are so many more rivers and hot springs and yeah, each time I'm like, oh, yep, my expectation was wrong. Uh, I was conditioned incorrectly. I now know differently and can do differently. Thank you very much, Desert, for helping me do that.
Yeah. Well, this landscape can be really humbling because um I just read a poem recently by Andrea Gibson, and one of the things she talks about, I can't think of the name of it, but I can give you the link to this, but it talks about instead of paying attention to what's not there, you pay attention to what is there. And what I love about being in the desert is you're right. Like there are a lot of things that are not here by you know, by the way that it is here, the land and what it offers. But what I love about being in community here and connecting with people is we celebrate what we do have. And so it's humbling and it keeps you in that engagement. It's like, oh, yeah, recently I took someone to the lake that's 20 minutes away from here and they're like, oh my God, like we're in the middle of where did this come from? And they were so excited about it. And I don't know, it engages you in a certain way for sure. And then of course, because there's not much here, you have a lot of sky. So if you're a sky person,
Oh yes, there's a big part of me that wishes I had been down by you this last weekend to be able to enjoy the Perseids. But then when I was chatting with my mom, she said that there had been a ton of cloud cover, at least in her part of New Mexico, because of monsoon season starting and the rains coming. So she wasn't able to see any of the Perseids except actually through my phone because I called her while we were stargazing and held it up to the sky for her to see what she could.
you
Did you have
recognize sky that night, but she had you that shows her the sky, That's what it's that opportunity.
did you have clear skies for the Perseids, or did you also have clouds down by you?
I've been out every night since July 15th, catching up and then being here. And somebody gave me a free white leather couch that is now an outdoor couch and it folds down into a bed. And so I have gatherings. I have people come over and we put pillows and blankets and we all just, eat dinner. And then at 9:30 we go out and yeah, we've just been watching the stars, watching the sky. And
Uh,
it's been insane.
oh, that's so beautiful. And what a what a lovely additional piece to the stargazing possibilities in our retreats and in any retreat that may come down to Rio Abajo Rio. Mm.
Nice too, because there's not a lot of light pollution. So that's super key, you're just like not having all the light. And then there's no sound pollution either. So you're really engaged with the sky. Yeah.
Ah.
But yeah, and then I was recently hired on to be a massage therapist in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, for this place called Natural Curiosity, which is a place for students to go and learn about nature and I mean of all sorts. And so they hired me on to come give body work on top of in a tent on top of a mountain And they kept thanking me like, oh my God, thank you for coming all the way out here. Thank you for bringing your offering here. It changed changed the dynamics here. It changed this. It was such a joy to have you on board.
Mm.
And like, oh my God, thank you for bringing me on to your retreat. Thank you for having me here. Thank
Mhm.
you for this tent and letting me have this mountain, for this time. And so yeah, it's also great thinking that what you and I offer, that we can be brought into those experiences. And because of our way of working with things, we do, kind of engage and come in and bring in a different, yeah, different energy. So
Yeah, completely. Um and the offerings, like Zephyr's bodywork, like has to be experienced in
mm,
person, and it is so good.
mm,
It's so good. From Portland to New Mexico and back again. Um,
yeah.
um, and my offerings with tarot and creative thinking, and whether it's individual tarot readings or group tarot sessions, I love also being brought in places. I have uh, events that I do on an almost monthly basis down at this beautiful old church turned concert venue in Portland. And I love being brought in there every month and just being there to be able to be with the patrons and give readings or just walk around and inviting people to choose a sovereign oracle card while they wait, so that while they're just waiting for whatever beautiful sound bath, they also might be thinking of archetype and how they want to call in their own magical imagery and wear a divinely appointed mask, and how they might want to explore their own personal myths. What is a personal myth? Why would I want to explore it? And that these little cards can just then weave into the rest of their experience. And it can also be done here on Zoom, or in, whatever online platform your collective or business uses. And um, yeah, it's super sweet. And it's interesting because you said earlier, Zephyr, that you were surprised that I hadn't done a lot of retreats prior, and I had attended more than my fair share of a few. And in fact, things that I learned of at retreats that went really, really well, and things I learned at retreats that went really, really badly, all got woven into the framework of what Zephyr and I can offer, like all of the safety precautions, hard learned, going to hot springs, lusciously learned. Um, and However, even though my personal experience with retreats is largely around my theater company or theater companies that I have been involved with, where we have retreats to work on new shows, create our next year's programming. I helped craft a retreat for a friend who's working on a book about her immigration as a small child from Vietnam to the US, and um, as a series of children's books. That's just so beautiful and so sweet, and um, a story that's not really out there, or at least not that I know of, from a children's perspective of like what it's like to be um, at a refugee camp as a small child, and how her parents did an amazing job of couching being a refugee as being on vacation and taking pictures. Like, her story is amazing. I'm so, her, you know, as with all creations, like, it takes the time it's going to take, and it'll be published and finished when it's well and good and when she's ready for it. But yeah, so those are the kinds of retreats that I have the most personal experience with, um, which is a little different than what it is that we're co-creating together, or listening to your business company collectives needs and intentionally crafting with you.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What are you, yeah, what are you really looking forward to? Is like something that's you really, yeah.
So as soon as you started asking the question, the connection went all sorts of weird. So I need you to please repeat the question.
Well, Kate, what are you most looking forward to with this retreat that you and I are co-facilitating?
Honestly, I'm most looking forward to the surprises.
Mm.
I love that. I love that we have scheduled time really well, with breakfast, morning movement, yoga, meditation, workshop, free time for creation, lunch, workshop, free time for creation, free time to go explore, and that is a framework for each day, but it's also just the beginning point. And so I know that when we're driving people down to Hillsboro from Sunport, that when we're all like chatting and having lunch at the dunes, ideas and questions are gonna come up. And as we're driving, like, I don't know if you're like this, but I'm very much the kind of person that's like, ooh, brown sign, must go and look at it. And so I
Mm.
will just like take those detours, and I 100% expect the people who join us to also follow that impulse and be like, hey, can we stop there? And be like, yes, of course we can, because we've built our schedule and our timeline in such a way that it really supports that kind of spontaneity, while at the same time having a framework and a scaffolding for those people that are like, but it is 5 o'clock now, and there is this thing.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
I really, I feel like our framework really supports all of those different neurotype desires and needs. And yeah, so honestly, what I'm most excited about is where all of you want to go. What ideas are sparked by you when you're Googling T or C, New Mexico, and looking at the routes and being like, "Ooh, what's that over there?" Or I know we're going to I know we're going to the cliff dwellings at Gila. What are some things along the way? Or is it possible to do this? And all of the ways that we have the space, and really through you by being part of the community and like from and of there, of being able to be like, oh yeah, so rather than going to that, which it looks like a river on the map, but it's not actually, it's a little tiny stream, can totally go to it, but if you really want a river, we got to go over here. So which is it that you want? And that's the sort of thing that
Cool.
I certainly don't.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like a retreat I want to go on. Where do you, what do you want to do?
Exactly. And we've um what's the business term for it? We've auto-populated it with lots of really awesome things, and any one of those could be taken out and swapped for something else. And
Are you
yeah.
saying it's that can evolve?
I am in fact saying that it is a retreat that can evolve.
Oh my God. I'm okay.
So there is
Oh, that's why we're so, oh, okay. Okay.
there's a little bit of an inside joke here, which I'm going to, which, are you okay if I let our watchers in on?
Of course.
So before Zephyr and I started recording, we were just chatting about the retreat, how we wanted to talk and share things, and I pulled two sovereign oracle cards for us that are ask and evolve, and both of us were just like, ha ha, oh my gosh, how incredibly appropriate, because how incredibly appropriate. And what ask says, so these cards were created by Teresa Pridemore. It says, requesting aid takes courage. Verbalize your need for support. And that's one of the things that Zephyr and I love doing. Like, we love supporting you for what it is that you or your company or your collective needs for your health and wellness and support, and just like time to play and toss the backpack from the school bus and go and run. Totally. I totally knew where you were going with that, Zephyr. But I'll ask also says, give someone the gift of being an important part of your hero's journey, and delegate it to your guides. We don't have to do all of the things. We can ask for help from other places and other energies. And evolve, favor incremental changes over quantum leaps. Further maturation may be required to meet your goal. And I mean, if that's not a bullet point that talks to the invitation for writers and creatives to come and show their work and get more feedback and then weave it in over the course of their time with us, I kind of don't know what does. And lastly, celebrate your new self, but honor the grief in releasing the old. And maybe that one is resonating even more with me right now because of how much grief I have been dealing with over the last few months. But yeah, I really appreciated the celebration of the new self, and in some ways one of the things, and I don't actually remember if this made it onto the group tarot.com/retreat page, or if it was just something that you and I talked about. But having a having whatever the final days gathering was to be a bit of that celebration, to be a bit of that graduation and that button on the retreat time, whether it's a week, a weekend, or a day, but having that bloop.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing to include in that, because of, it's a, individual retreat, but it's a collective experience. And what I think is so interesting with ones I've been a part of and joined is like how when you do come together and have that shared time, that button time, that celebration time, how like powerful it is when you see that you've all been reflecting and mirroring and holding and almost partaking in the same thing, even though it was very differently unique. But there's such a power in sharing that. And then it's kind of like that moment where you feel just very held by these people you may never see again. You may, you never know. You could have exchanged emails, and next thing you know, you're doing a retreat together.
Exactly.
I do think the button is super powerful for sure, and finishing it up. I also, find that to be it.
Well, as we come to the finishing up of our time, is there anything Zephyr, that you want to end with, or things that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure folks are aware of?
I can't think of anything, but I do want to go back to one detail that I find that is very important in my strong suit in facilitating, other than offering body work and getting to share with people. But one of the things that I think is very, very, very valuable and will be highlighted on this retreat is the time that things aren't scheduled. And it's, and I don't know like all the frameworks that have been done, but I do believe that free time is very, very important. And I did do something like adult summer camp, and there was a dancer, there was a meditator, there was a body worker, and there was a business coach there. And we all got to have our own time, do the things we needed to do. Like literally we all just like, spread out, had these times to do what we need to do, and then came together and shared what we wanted to do. And what we found during that retreat, there was meals planned, things planned that we would do together. And then there was that free time. And what was so cool is that free time, when we did come together and get to, talk about what happened, that almost created more of an experience for the summer camp, So very, very cool.
Yes. That reminds me of, so if we are planning your retreat for you, you have two options when it comes to food. One is that it can all be catered, and the other is that it can all be collectively done. Or I suppose there's a third of having, you know, a little bit of each, having dinners catered and breakfasts and lunches be on your own. And when I was taking Rasa Box's intensive, super similar to what you were saying, one about free time, when we were all cooking together became one of those times where we were chewing into the work and discussing the and uh discussing the Natya Sastra and going deeper into each of the rasas, and all of this, like, while we're cooking and sharing space in the kitchen and being like, I would put this bell pepper experience in Adbhuta today because I am just marveling at how glorious its shape is. And someone else is like, I would put this pepper in Bibhatsa because I hate bell peppers and they like feel waxy and icky on my hands. And so our uh time together cooking was also time together, like learning about each other and diving deeper into the work, and just like it was so lovely. And um so many books have been written on the importance of food and like community coming together over food. And um, I love that we have multiple options to support that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, the really, really a special time for sure.
Well, if you have questions about the retreat, about booking a retreat, having us curate a retreat for you, or bringing either Zephyr or I into your already existing retreat, Zephyr, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me would be email me at Rio Abajo Rio .nm@gmail, and we can link that on there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
But
absolutely.
yeah, send me an email about how I can support your vision, and yeah, weave in there some body work and support whatever you got going on, and then love to join you. So
Mm-hmm. And the best way that you can get a hold of me is also by email, kate@grouptarot.com. And you can see the framework of Zephyr's and my retreat offerings at grouptarot.com/retreats.
hey,
Love
thanks, Kate.
creating things with you, Zephyr.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to have this retreat here in Hillsboro. I'm really looking forward to it. And
Ditto.
yeah, so
Ditto, ditto, ditto. Have a beautiful day, friends.